All right, get this. October. Catchy, right.
Definitely. Has a ring to it.
But is it hype or is it actually happening?
Yeah.
That's what we're diving into today.
The million-dollar question, right?
We've got some Bitcoin price predictions you sent over. And even if, crypto isn't your thing, the way these forecasts work, it's relevant to any market.
Oh, absolutely. Because it's all about, trying to read those tea leaves.
Right.
Whether we're talking about Bitcoin or Beanie Babies, trying to understand how predictions influence how people behave. I mean, that's the real gold mine.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so let's dive right in. This first article is from Binance. Now, we know Binance, they're a huge e-crypto exchange. So they're kind of invested in people being excited about Bitcoin, right?
They want people in the game.
Yeah.
And that's what makes their approach in this article kind of fascinating. So they've got this whole section, right, with all these user-generated price predictions. And surprise, surprise, most of them are super, super bullish.
To the moon.
Exactly. But then, almost like a little footnote, they slide in their own technical analysis, which, well, it paints a slightly different picture.
Hold on. So they're showcasing all this Bitcoin to the moon energy, but then their own analysis is more like, maybe tap the brakes a little.
Yeah, a little bit. Like, let's be real for a sec.
So why even include that if they want people hyped up?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And it's that why that's so crucial for you as the reader, as the investor, because, see, by acknowledging the possibility of a downturn, even just subtly, they're actually kind of sneakily building trust.
It's like we're not just cheerleaders here.
Exactly. It's like, we're not just here to pump our own bags, we're trying to be real with you. And that can actually make you more credible.
Way more credible, especially in a world of hype, right?
Yeah.
Like you stand out by saying, hey, I'm being straight with you.
100%. But here's where it gets even juicier.
Okay.
Remember how I said their technical analysis wasn't all sunshine and roses? Well, their 4-hour chart, bearish. Actually bearish?
Whoa. Back up. So they're saying one thing to the crowd, but their own charts are hinting at something totally different.
It's bold. It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
That is a bold move.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the takeaway here? Because I feel like this is a big one.
The big takeaway for anyone trying to make sense of market predictions, there are always multiple narratives at play. Always. And understanding who is pushing which narrative and why they're doing it, it's just as important, if not more important, than the numbers themselves.
Don't follow the hype. Follow the motivations behind the hype. I love that.
Follow the money.
Always. Okay, so moving on, this next article is from TradingView News, and they're looking at things from kind of a different angle.
Yeah, they really hit home the importance of time frame. They break it down by the hour, the day, the week even. And what they're basically saying is the shorter the time frame, the more unpredictable things get.
So trying to predict what Bitcoin will do in the next hour is basically just like...
flipping a coin. Yeah, throwing darts blindfolded. It's anyone's guess.
Exactly. But it doesn't mean those short-term analyses are completely useless.
No, not at all. I mean, they're entertaining.
Right.
You just got to take them with a grain of salt.
Right, because if you could actually predict the next hour, we wouldn't be here.
We'd be on a beach somewhere.
Exactly. Okay, but this article, it does look at the bigger picture too, right?
Absolutely. And they get into specifics, which I appreciate. They talk about price points, like that $66,789 support level. That's the price where buying is likely to increase and prevent it from dropping further. And then there's the $67,922 resistance level. That's where selling pressure might kick in, push the price down.
Okay, so it's like visualizing those turning points on a map, but not set in stone.
Right. And I think the important thing here, they're acknowledging that even longer-term predictions, they're about identifying trends, not promising 100% guaranteed outcomes.
It's less about Bitcoin will be at this price on this date, and more about here are the forces at play that could push it in this direction.
Much more nuanced.
Way more nuance. And speaking of nuance, this third article from FX Street, it dives headfirst into October.
Oh boy, here we go.
But there's a twist.
Always a twist. I'm intrigued. Let's hear it.
Okay, so we're finally getting down to it, October, right?
Yeah.
Is it real or just, wishful thinking for the crypto diehards? This FX Street article seems to think there's something there.
Yeah, they're not just blowing smoke.
But they back it up with, they've got actual data.
Right, they're bringing receipts, which I always appreciate.
So what are they seeing?
So they're using data from CryptoQuant, and it shows this recent surge in demand for Bitcoin. And historically, this kind of increased demand, it's often, not always, but often precedes a price increase.
Right, like more people want it, the price goes up. Pretty basic.
Supply and demand, baby.
Yeah.
Economics 101. But, and this is a big but,
There's always a but.
it's crypto, right? So past performance, it can be an indicator, but never a guarantee.
Especially in a market that's, as crazy as crypto can be.
Exactly. Just because we've seen this pattern before doesn't mean it's a sure thing this time around.
Okay, so how do they address that? Do they just say, like, well, who knows?
Not quite. They take actually a really interesting approach here. They compare this year to what happened after previous halving events.
Okay, halving, just a quick refresher for folks who might not be familiar with the term.
It's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, so that's when the rate at which new Bitcoin is created, it gets cut in half, right?
Exactly. Less Bitcoin coming into the world.
Makes it more scarce, theoretically more valuable over time.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is that the way the price is moving this year, it's kind of mirroring what we saw back in 2016.
Okay.
So after the halving that year, Bitcoin's price, it stayed pretty stable for a few months, like people were watching and waiting, and then boom, took off.
So are they suggesting that October is actually going to be more like up November or up December this year?
They're planting the seed for sure. Bold move.
That's a pretty bold prediction to make, right?
Yeah.
Based on one historical comparison.
It is, and I think this is important for everyone to remember. Just because two things happened around the same time doesn't mean one caused the other.
Right. Correlation isn't causation.
Exactly. Just
Yeah.
because it played out that way in the past doesn't mean it's guaranteed to happen again. But it does give us like a framework, right?
Yeah.
A way to understand how Bitcoin might react after a halving gives us something to compare it to.
So it's not so much about saying, like, this is exactly what will happen, as it is about saying, here's a possible scenario based on what we've seen before.
Exactly. And this is where critical thinking is so important. Instead of just blindly following these predictions, you can use this information, use this historical context to really think for yourself.
Right. So instead of asking, will Bitcoin go up in October, the better question is,
What could drive the price up or down in the coming months? And how does this historical data fit into that picture?
it's like, history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Bitcoin's going to follow that 2016 pattern exactly, but it's good to have that in mind.
Exactly. That's what this is all about. No crystal ball.
Right.
Especially with financial markets. It's about giving you the tools to be a discerning, a critical thinker.
Right. Don't just take things at face value.
Right.
So instead of getting all caught up in October, let's think about what we saw in these articles. We've got Binance kind of working this tightrope, managing expectations, but still wanting to keep the excitement going.
Subtle, but smart. And then TradingView, right, they're like, yeah, the short-term game is a crapshoot,
Basically.
but those long-term trends, those are worth looking at.
Yeah, if you're trying to make sense of the bigger picture.
Exactly. And then there's FX Street, bringing in the historical data, those halving events, which, could suggest maybe a delayed price increase, but again, not a guarantee.
Right. And what I find so interesting is that none of these analyses are necessarily wrong. They're all looking at the same market, but it's like they're each holding up a different colored lens.
100%. Different perspectives, different goals, and that's key.
Which takes us back to, okay, who benefits? Who benefits if I buy into October? Who benefits if I'm more cautious?
Those are the questions, right? And that's where you got to do your homework. You've got these different perspectives now. You've seen the potential catalysts. Now go deeper.
So what would that look like? Should I be, pulling up old charts, trying to find those patterns?
You do that. You could also look into the actual factors that are driving demand for Bitcoin right now. Is it regulations changing? Is it big institutions getting in the game? Or is it just, how risky are people feeling these days?
So much to consider.
Right. But that's the fun part. It's a choose your own adventure.
It totally is.
Yeah.
So to our listener out there, consider this your jumping off point. We've done the deep dive. Now it's your turn. Maybe October lives up to all the hype. Maybe it doesn't. Either way, you're more prepared than you were yesterday. So until next time.
Happy researching.
Happy researching.